Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSPR is my Twitter handle, and Ryan Holmes is RHOLM22. Raiders lose again to the Rams.
We're going to hear that a lot over the next 10 weeks.
And this was the game, and we'll just dive into the Rams real quick. This was the game where, like, before that stretch was coming, that you thought they have a chance to win this game, and AOC got hurt, and then Gardner comes in and just throws a plethora, if you will, of INTs and turnovers and all things like that. So just not a good look for the Raiders. And I mean, listen, like they have not been blessed with good quarterback play for a long time in this franchise, and it just seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. Making, from Jimmy G to Gardner Minshew to Aiden O'Connell, it's been a mess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that O'Connell got hurt because he was getting his chance to showcase himself to potentially be a part of this organization moving forward and try to put his stamp on continuing to compete for a starting job. But I think if he's now going to miss 4 to 6 weeks and he misses a substantial part of this season, the Raiders have to go into the offseason now and get a QB1. They can keep O'Connell around, let him battle for the backup job, but this was basically his audition. And it's just unfortunate. Zamir White couldn't come up with the block on the blitzer there. I believe it was Cam Curl that jumped in there and was able to hit the thumb. He tried, stayed in the game. And the Raiders are going to have to obviously turn back to Gardner Minshew. And Desmond Ridder is the new quarterback in town that might have a chance here in the next couple of weeks to find himself taking snaps if Gardner Minshew can't stop turning the ball over. Abundance is correct. His confidence is gone. You can see him. He's moving around in the pocket. I don't think he's seeing the field very well anymore. And the more they tell him to stop turning the ball over, the more pressure I think he's putting on himself, and he's just making bad decisions. Like those balls to go out of bounds, and he's throwing them right to the defenders.
Yeah. Cam Curl had a game that I think he'll tell his grandkids about against the Raiders this past week. But it's to your point, I do believe that's one of the things where you say, it's almost like when you're rooting on your kids playing sports. Don't make a mistake, and then they make a mistake because your kid keeps saying it. So I'm not sure what to do with it as far as Gardner goes. I do think that is it an indictment of the Raiders and Getsy that he is not a superstar quarterback by any means. Nobody's gonna mix up Gardner Minshew with Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Ken Stabler or anybody like that. But this is the worst he's ever played in his career. Like, he has not played worse. I've not watched him every single game, but I've seen 3 or 4 games from him when he's been a starter, and this is the worst stretch of football he's ever played.
Yeah, as far as turning the ball over, clearly is the worst. He played last year. I think he ended the season with 9 interceptions. He already has 8, and he missed 2 games and 2 quarters. Yeah. So the fact he's turning the ball over at a high rate, and that doesn't count the fumbles, that was just interceptions. That's something that has to change as we move forward. Is now he's going to be tasked with facing better teams, better scoring offenses where he has to keep pace. Yep. Plus, he's facing better defenses. The Chiefs. Okay, he's going to have to face the Chiefs twice. You have the Bengals on the schedule. And as the calendar flips into November, you're going to see the Broncos again, who had his number. So I think the leash here is kind of short until Ridder gets up to speed. And let's be honest, Desmond Ridder is not the answer. I see a lot of people think, why Desmond Ridder? Why not Ryan Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill is not coming out of retirement to play for a 2-5 team. The Raiders don't need to spend a lot of money to bring in a quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not the long-term answer, and this team's not going to the playoffs. So they went and found a young quarterback who's athletic, who's mobile, who has some arm strength, but he has committed a lot of turnovers and lost his job in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And they need a guy that can basically just come in and be the backup until O'Connell gets back and O'Connell can be the starting quarterback. So I think at this point that O'Connell, the minute he's healthy, if Gardner Minshew keeps playing the way he's going to play, kind of will be starting come December when he gets back on the field.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill would if they let's say the Bills lose Josh Allen for 5 weeks, that's the kind of team he'd come off the couch for. But he's not coming off the couch for for the Raiders who are
and let's be real, he's not a good quarterback anymore either. So I don't know why everyone's clamoring like, why didn't they go out and get a different option? Why didn't they trade for Matt Stafford? The Raiders need a long-term quarterback of the future. Trading assets at this point to try to pick an extra win or two in 2024 it is a bad decision by front office. This season is sunk at this point, basically, unless this team goes on a miraculous run. They need as many assets as they can have going into the offseason, trading for players. And I see people all the time sending messages, are the Raiders in on this guy? Are they on this guy? Are they going to trade for someone? No, they're not. I don't see the Raiders trading for anybody at the trade deadline. If anything, they're going to trade off pieces as these losses continue to mount. Look at who the next 3 games are against. They're probably going to lose all 3.
Yeah, and that then you're talking about 2-8. That's mine. Unfortunately,
also Kansas City back on. They're going to be 2-9.
Yeah, I know. And Josh DeBo's having a laugh this week because he's talking about, hey, the Raiders have the recipe to beat the Chiefs. But it is what it is. That's what he does. But Ritter is not the answer either. So I know people don't. But people, I mean, he's just going to be a journeyman backup guy. He had his opportunity. He had plenty of starts to seal the deal in Atlanta, and he wasn't able to do it. So I wouldn't expect him to do that at all here. Get a lot of questions about like the wide receiver deal. They traded Devontae Adams. We talked about that, whatever. But Cooper goes to the Bills, Buffalo. And then you got Hopkins, D-Hop going to the Chiefs. We texted this morning about D-Hop. It's just, are they looking to play him at tight end or what's going
on? My personal opinion at this point, DeAndre Hopkins was a phenomenal receiver. I don't think he still is. I think he can be a competitive receiver. Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell in Tennessee. He didn't have a quarterback throwing the ball. He had Will Levis. He had a second-year guy that hasn't had a lot of experience and a new offense. Having said that, DeAndre Hopkins was never the fastest guy. He's not a burner that's going to be running down the field and going by guys. He's a possession guy. He's going to work underneath. But at this point, he's not going to be that explosive piece that Kansas City normally is looking to add. They're going to have to still rely on Worthy, Mecole Hardman, and then Travis Kelce. And Hopkins is going to kind of just be that possession guy underneath, get him 4, 5, 6 targets a game. Maybe he gets 4 catches for 50 yards. Like, he's not going to be the explosive, guy that's going to go out there and get 12 to 15 targets, 100 yards, and catch a touchdown or 2. Like, that's no longer who he is. He can be a complement to a wide receiver room, but
yes,
when I opened up Twitter this morning and it was talking about star this and star that, I'm like, I guess they haven't watched DeAndre Hopkins the last couple of years.
Yeah. You had some Raider creators talking about, I didn't want to wake up this morning and hear this news. I'm like, dude, they didn't sign Jerry Rice in his prime. Like, I mean, my God, like, I mean, I'm sure he'll make. There are gonna be moments where he makes some plays because. What the other day, the last home game, Juju Smith-Schuster went nuts. But that's not a commonplace thing. That's not something that they do. They really are right now. The Chiefs are just a run the football team and play defense because this has not been a great year for Patrick Mahomes.
No, I think I texted you this morning that the Chiefs actually throw the ball to their wide receivers at a very similar rate as I think it was New England, the Raiders. And there was one other bad team. It's like they don't target wide receivers.
Yeah,
they're now hitting backs, the backup tight ends, 2, 3 tight ends get catches, Kelce every once and again. But the days of Patrick Mahomes dropping back and slinging the ball down the field to Tyreek Hill and that, those days are gone. So this is a completely different team that they rely on defense, rely on running the football, and Patrick Mahomes just makes the plays he needs to make in the second half of these games to pull out wins. So we'll see what happens going forward, but I don't think by any stretch that DeAndre Hopkins seals the deal that they're a slam dunk Super Bowl favorite at this point. I don't think he moves the needle that much.
And I still think they're very vulnerable when you play unless they get something more offensively. You're teetering. You're playing with fire, being in close games all the time with a bunch of these teams. Cooper, former Raider, going to the Bills. What are your thoughts about that one? I think it seemed like a pretty good fit. I'm not sure. I mean, I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, that's a guy who I would have like. You know, I wouldn't have loved to see it happen, but like that would have been a guy I would have rather have than B Hop, D Hop.
Yeah, I think he would fit better as a route runner, as a younger guy, as a guy that
Yeah,
has some more explosiveness. Now his hands aren't nearly as good as DeAndre Hopkins, but as a guy that they can put in that offense and to pair with Travis Kelce, I think if I was the Chiefs, I would have rather had Amari Cooper. Now we'll see what happens with Cooper Kupp, who allegedly
yeah,
is on the market now. And I will add for everyone that was making comments about the DeAndre or Devontae Adams trade. Notice the return they got on Hopkins because the owner was willing to pay down a good, I think it was $3 million almost of DeAndre Hopkins' salary. They
mm-hmm.
were able, there's a chance they're getting a fourth round pick for DeAndre Hopkins when the Raiders could only get a third for Devontae Adams because Mark Davis would not pay down the salary.
Yeah,
And you're hearing maybe a two for Cooper Kupp, who's the same age as
yeah.
Devontae Adams, who has a much longer injury history, but the Rams' Sam Conkey is willing to pay down the salary if someone wants to give up a number two for Cooper Kupp. I don't think they'll get a two because he's just been so hurt and he hasn't played much this year. But if he goes off for the next 2 or 3 weeks, there's a chance they can right before the deadline. I think the deadline is 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So if he has a good 2 weeks, there's a chance, and they're going to audition him probably. I think it's starting Thursday. I think tomorrow night they play the Vikings.
All 22. I know that you were just like, you had a big feast and you had like, Diet Coke and you were just loving watching what you were seeing. What were some of your prevailing thoughts about the Raiders off on offense and defense here on all 22?
I think the offense continues to be a little bit of what we've seen most of the season. It's inconsistent. The route combinations aren't great. Every once in a while, I see a guy pop open. I think I posted a clip of on the 3rd and 5 in the red zone on the in route on the backside of the 3-by-1-2. Bowers that got knocked away. That Trey Tucker was actually open coming across kind of on a dart slant. It was a nice where Alex Bachman ran into the flat, kind of set a rub or a pick, whatever you want to call it. And Minshew didn't go there. I don't hate the read, and I explained this on Twitter. Like if you have Brock Bowers as your best guy and he's one-on-one on the backside and there's no safety help, like you're probably going to him 80% of the time in that situation. But based on the pre-snap coverage, there was nobody in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So knowing that you kind of have a rub route and a guy working to the middle, I would have liked to see Minshew look that way. But for all these people online, when I see it every week, they're just saying like, the quarterbacks are terrible. Yeah, they're turning the ball over, but to act like there's just guys running wide open on every play and they're just missing them over and over and over again, that's not true. I could pick maybe 3 or 4 plays where guys are coming open over an entire game, but I can do that for every team in the league. If I just sit down and watch the L22. You can watch games on TV and you can see the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allen guys missing the same plays. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more, the more you watch it, you'd like to see better combinations. You'd like to see more down the field stuff. But at the same time, the Raiders aren't pass protecting very well either. This was a very bad pass pro game. Yeah. I think Glaze wasn't great this week. And I know Raider fans aren't going to like to hear this, but the more I watch JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, his tape's just not very good so far this year. Now he'll flash, but then there's moments where he just gets beat pretty quickly. And he's got a big test coming up with Chris Jones this week. So he's going to be a good player. I don't think he's there yet. And Raider fans are stamping this as like they think Telesco just hit a home run on the first 3 picks. I would slow down a little bit on JPJ and let him kind of grow into that player rather than saying he's the guy now. It wouldn't surprise me at some point if Dylan Parham comes out, if we do see Jordan Meredith go over there, if he continues to struggle a little bit and give him a little rest, or maybe he slides into center. I think going forward, he should probably be the center next year because his left guard tape's not great. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And Andre James has just struggled most of the year. So at some point, I think the Raiders need to really consider moving JPJ back to center in the offseason. I wouldn't really do it during the season because he's a rookie, but he's not shown enough to stamp that this guy's going to be a Pro Bowl guard. Let's leave him here. But this guy might be just be a better center.
Is he having trouble with the quickness, or is he getting blown off the ball with power?
I think he's just oversetting, and he's so aggressive that he gets out, he lunges forward, and guys can beat him pretty quickly. So it's coachable. They can work it out of him. I think some of the stunts in this game specifically, him and James had a hard time passing off stunts. It happened 3 or 4 times, and I think he gets so locked in. There's one particular play in the Rams game, and I didn't post it, where they basically ran a twist right in front of him, and he's so focused on the guy in front of him, the guy that was coming to hit him and spike him, he didn't even see him. And he completely knocked him like 3 yards off, and then split the difference and ran out the middle and hit Minshew. So it's going to take time. He needs reps. He's a rookie. He missed most of the offseason. I get that. But I do think at some point the Raiders really need to consider moving him back to center and moving on from Andre James.
Yeah, I mean, and if they had to get out of that Andre James contract, that's
they have plenty of cap room to
do that. Yeah, so let's just
preferably they could trade him so it's not as bad in the offseason, but there will be a cap hit next year if they do decide to move on.
Hey, the rumor is the Dolphins love him, so like I'm all for him going to Miami. I'm going to Miami. As far as that goes,
I would also add the passing game without Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams is severely limited, because the 3 guys they're running out there right now are all diminutive guys. Trey Tucker's having a really hard time getting off of press coverage. So teams are just pressing him. And if he can't get out in the route right away, and then you have Bachman and Turner, those guys are basically practice squad level players with a little bit of special teams value. Like, they're not guys you want as your receivers out there as your second and third option. So this thing goes basically through Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers is working mostly in that short to intermediate range. They haven't really unleashed him down the field because they're using him to chip. They're using him on 10-yard routes over the middle, or they're using him on some quick out routes when he's lined up as a single wide receiver. So I'd like to see them be able to get him more in line or in the slot and work vertically where he can be a difference maker, because right now, just using him underneath for 5, 6, 7-yard routes, it's great. I mean, he's picking up 10 catches for 90 yards because he can break some tackles and some run after the catch stuff. But for this offense really to take off, they need some vertical plays, and Brock Bowers might be just your best option. He's the only guy they have right now with size. And when Jacoby Myers comes back, he's not a fast guy either. He's not a vertical receiver.
And you mentioned him coming back. Do you think that Jacoby Myers would be a guy the Raiders would consider trading? I know the Niners wanted where they put in the offer for him as well too. I mean, just thinking out loud, because I mean, there are some teams who are good football teams who have been decimated by injuries with their wide receiver core.
Depends on what I could get for him, because I think he has 1 year left. I think he signed a 3-year deal. He may have this may be his last year, because if it was a 3-year deal originally when Josh McDaniels came over, this would be the 3rd year, because McDaniels went for 2, and then obviously AP. So I would need to get like a 3rd round pick for him. That seems really high considering what Hopkins just went for, and then obviously what they got for Devontae Adams. I think with Jacoby Myers, he can be a really good number 2, but he does everything you want him to do. He's a great teammate. He has no problem getting in there and blocking and taking on linebackers and basically doing anything the team asks for him. So I'd like to see him on the team moving forward, especially with a rookie quarterback hopefully coming in next year, because the cupboard can't be bare. You can't just bring a rookie quarterback in and say, okay, here, go play with DJ Turner, Alex Bachman, and Trey Tucker. You can't do that. So the offer would have to be good enough. Unless you just go to Jacoby and say, hey man, and make him an offer to extend him. And if he's not interested in staying next year, then I would look at options, but I would need probably a 3rd round pick to move him. I don't know if you have his contract stuff in front of you, but
I do.
Free agent.
Yeah, I do. It's he's 28 years old, going to be 29 next year. Base salary is $5 million. And let's see.
There's some voidable years on the back end of that.
The voidable years in 2026, where he'd be unrestricted free agent. So what else?
So then he would be under contract for next year, if that's right.
He's up contract for he's under contract for 2025.
Then I would probably hold on to him unless I got a pretty good pick for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like if you do come with a rookie wide receiver, rookie quarterback, he would be kind of the perfect guy to be part of your offense. He'll block, he'll do all the things, all the dirty work things, and also get open as well too. So I don't know if you see
$10 million next year, $10.5 million. That's perfectly fine. I would hold on to him unless someone gave me a good pick.
Yeah.
third rounder, I might take that call, but I'm not trading him for a fifth or sixth rounder. No way.
Yeah, no way. So I'll definitely agree with you on that. I'll leave that alone. AP at the presser. Anything from we learned from our coach this week? I mean, how like him how he's handling this losing is going to be interesting because this is going to get tough real quick. If these quarterbacks the next 3 weeks play and there's no major injuries to these teams, I don't see a win in the next 3 games, and then you end up being 2-8.
I think it's interesting, and I think I texted you before the game ended that I said the first two words AP is going to say when he gets on the podium after the game was penalties and turnovers, and those were the first two things he said. And the penalties are on him. He's the head coach, so that's a reflection of him and what goes on in practice and the techniques they're teaching him. It's interesting the penalties have really upticked the last couple of weeks after basically being penalty free for the majority of AP's tenure here as the interim and now head coach. That's going to have to change. They're going to have to stop committing penalties, especially pre-snap penalties. I do think that he keeps harping on it to the media, which makes sense. But he came out today and said they asked him about the Chiefs game, and the first thing he says, we can't turn the ball over. Like they're in a panic mode now over it. Where like that's going to bleed over into the offense. So I don't expect to see an aggressive Gardner Minshew. Not that we've seen one this year, but like they're pounding it into him. Don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. So like there's a tight window throw. If there's a chance it might not get there, he may just sail this thing out of bounds. So I get ready to see them try to run the ball a ton. I think they're going to try to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. I think they're going to try to establish the run. And then just if he does turn the ball over twice in the first half, like what are they going to do? Like I don't think Desmond Ritter's ready to play. He doesn't know the offense. He just got in the building.
Yeah,
it's going to take him a couple of weeks to get up to speed. So we'll see. I mean, that the second half last week against the Rams was bad. As bad as the first half and into the second half was against the Broncos, I think last week was the worst game that Gardner Minshew's probably ever played.
It's funny. You talked about drilling somebody in with like don't turn the ball over. There was a couple of games, and Phil Simms talked about it, where Bill Parcells looked at him in the face and said, if you don't fucking turn over, if you don't fucking throw two interceptions in this game, I'm taking you out. I mean, you're not being aggressive. And they're playing the Niners or whatever. And I just think it's just the opposite mindset. I thought it was interesting. Because whenever somebody's
this team's not talented enough to turn it over twice.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But absolutely not. But I just remember that story that Phil Simms was talking about with Bill Parcells. Yeah, I just listen. It's gonna be tough sledding for them. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. Upcoming this week with the Chiefs, there really isn't nothing. It really isn't anything to say about this game because Gardner Minshew and whoever plays quarterback for the Raiders this week, they will turn the ball over at least a couple of times this week. I just don't know how they get through a game with Spagnuolo, Blitzen, all those things like that. But can they turn over Patrick Mahomes, who he's Patrick Mahomes. He's the king of the mountain right now in the National Football League. But we talked about it. By no measure is he'll make the winning play like the scramble he made against the 49ers last week where he faked out Fred Warner and made him look silly. But
just hit him. Because he's going to keep doing that. He gets away with it because if you hit him with a penalty,
dude, I don't understand.
He just runs up the sideline.
It's like, dude, like you have your shot. Like, forget about the penalty. Like, if you get the penalty, who cares? Just smack him. Just smack him. Just hit him. Like, it's not a big deal. But like, yeah, but you look at him by the numbers. Like, he's not really lighting up the scoreboard.
He's got as many interceptions as Gardner Minshew. Like, if we're being fair.
Yeah, he does. He's not playing good.
Yeah, I think what the Raiders want to do, and it's going to be similar to the game. The Raiders want to play the same style they did on Christmas last year. They want to run the ball, not throw it a ton. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is close that you're going to see run on first down, run on second down, maybe run on third down. Like, and you heard AP talk about it. Like, throw it away and allow us to punt. Like the pressure is going to be on the defense. Can the defense score in this game? I don't think they're going to get 2 touchdowns like they did last year on Christmas. They're going to have to keep the Chiefs in the 17 to 21 range to have a chance. That's just to have a chance. Like the Chiefs go out there and score 27, 30 points. the Raiders aren't going to score 30 points, barring a miracle in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They can't fall behind. If they fall behind by double digits early and they have to scrap the run game and they ask Gardner Minshew to throw the ball 35 or 40 times, he will turn it over. He'll take sacks.
He will.
He will turn it over in this game. They're going to have to take some shots down the field because everything right now are short routes and defenses are just squatting on everything. So they're going to have to try to back those guys up. If they fall behind and they just want to sit there and throw 5-yard curl routes and crossing routes and shallow routes, like that's not going to work either. They're going to have to clean up the screen game. They struggled against the Rams to throw basic screens. I think they got one to Madison before the half, but other than that, there was a couple that were pretty bad. I think Colton Miller is playing better. I think DJ Glaze is playing good. They're at home. That should help them, although I do expect it to be a very heavy Chiefs crowd. The Chiefs love coming in there and talking about how they won a Super Bowl in the Raiders' backyard and they're 5-0 in Allegiant Stadium. So it will feel a little bit like a Chiefs home game as well. But this is going to come down to the trenches. The Raiders' offensive line has to set the tone. They have to run the football, and the defense has to get the Chiefs off the field. They have to get them off the field on third down, and they have to stop the run. What you don't want to see them do, and this is something that they've done against the Chiefs in the past, is like drop back and play a ton of coverage and just allow Mahomes the underneath the 5 to 7 yards and let him go down the field and chew up the clock. At some point, they're going to have to come after him. And the defensive line is going to have to get after Mahomes. They're not going to win this game unless they sack him 3 or 4 times, force some tight window throws, maybe get a couple of turnovers. They played a ton of man coverage for the first time this season against the Rams, but the Rams didn't have any wide receivers in that game. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up with Kelsey. Who's going to get that assignment? I would assume it's going to be Merrick and Polamalu alternating. Maybe a little bit of Diablo on him as well. But the Raiders have played a ton of zone, and Patrick Mahomes will kill them if they play zone against them in this game. So they're going to have to play some man, and then whoever's guarding Kelsey is going to have to hold up, and then they're going to have a guy over the top of Worthy. They can't let Worthy get loose and catch some of those balls down the field.
Oh, say again?
Go Yankees! I see your flag.
Oh, that's not. That's the other my. Yeah. The family is. I'm not a Giant. I'm a Giants fan. Go ahead. A little World Series talk out here. Everybody's excited about the World Series out here because it's LA and New York. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it just comes down. They have to run the ball. They have to stop the run. They have to get off the field on third down. They're going to have to play a near perfect game to beat the Chiefs. Can they do it? Yeah, they can do it. The odds are they probably won't.
And if you're gonna go down, like, you know what I mean, like if you're gonna go down, just go down swinging. Like, you know, just be aggressive. Do what they do. Like they don't, like, Spagnuolo is not letting you just go down the field. Like he's just gonna, if he's losing, he's gonna go down blitzing, and just getting free runners to the quarterback. Like he's gonna do that all day and all night. So if I was the Raiders, I would do the same. Prediction for this one?
All right. Been saving this one. So
good.
I don't think the Raiders right now, they don't have confidence in the quarterback position.
They can't.
I think they're going to turn it over, as you mentioned. I don't know if they can get into enough third and shorts, enough first downs on second down. They're going to try to run the ball, and I think that what's going to happen is they're going to get into a lot of third and longs, and then the pressure is going to be on Gardner Minshew, and Spagnuolo is just going to whip up these exotic blitzes and exotic looks. You have 2 rookies on the offensive line. If Bowers has to stay in and help and chip at all, it's going to be tough. I have a hard time thinking the Raiders are going to score a ton of points in this game.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think they're going to keep it close. I think it's going to be something like 31-10. I hate to pick that. They're at home. Yeah. I want this team to be competitive. I want to watch good games on Sundays, but this is not a good matchup for them.
No, I'm looking at 27-7, and so for me, but yeah, it's not looking good. Gotta go. So I'm personally gotta go because I gotta pick somebody up from the train station. But before we go, I wanted to have you go with 2 thoughts. I'm gonna get your thoughts on one, Max Crosby talking about quarterbacks on his podcast. Very similar to the way he talked about
Good, someone needs to.
Huh, I know, right? Talking about AP whatever last year, and then your thoughts about so give me a couple positives because fans will want to know a couple positives from what you've seen from film of Cam Ward.
Okay. First of all, I think Max. It basically came out that he wants to be a Raider. He wants to stay here. So Max should have some say in like I would he shouldn't pick the quarterback, but he should be part of the decision making process and at least give his thoughts. Now they don't have to listen to him.
Yeah.
But Max wants to be a Raider. He wants to be around. He's willing to go through another kind of rebuild. Just let him feel like he's important, even if Telesco and Mark Davis and Tom Brady want to go in a different direction at quarterback.
Yeah.
But listen to him. As far as Cam Ward, I got some notes here. So I've watched 3 games on Cam Ward, and I was going to post this, but we'll wait a little bit and try to get through this. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So I watched Virginia Tech, Cal, and then yesterday I watched the Louisville game. His strengths, he's a great playmaker out of structure. I think when things start to break down and he can get outside the pocket, he keeps his eyes down the field. He's got a solid arm. He can make all the throws. I do think he tries to do that a little bit too much, where he just leaves the pocket because I haven't seen a lot of NFL stand in the pocket, read the defense, let it rip when your back foot hits. That's not Cam Ward. He kind of just stands back there and jumps around and kind of looks and then kind of scrambles out and makes a play. But once he's outside the pocket, he's very difficult to contain. He can run. He's not an elite scrambler, but he can run and get a first down. He can pick up 15 with his feet when he needs to. I think he can throw it from multiple arm angles. He can get the ball out. He can get it around guys. I do think it's a pretty low release, being a guy that's probably 6'1", maybe 6'2". It's kind of a really low release, so I think there's going to be balls batted down. The ball can sail on him a little bit when he's trying to drive it down the seam or outside the numbers. He's very good on in-breaking routes, so slants, dig routes, in routes where he can keep it between the numbers. He's pretty good. He can layer throws. Like he can get it up and over guys when he wants to. Again, it'll sail every once in a while, but he has shown the ability to throw to different levels of the field. I do think a couple of things that the footwork's a little inconsistent. You can see sometimes where his feet just aren't aligned with where he wants to throw the ball, and he just relies on his arm talent. Some guys can get away with that. Aaron Rodgers got away with it for a long time. Patrick Mahomes at times gets away with it. So it's not a huge negative, but something to pay attention to is his footwork. Decision making, that turnover worthy plays, we'll call them. Like I saw several in the Miami game. He threw in the Cal game, he threw a pretty bad interception before halftime, as well as at Virginia Tech. When the pocket's breaking down around him and there's people around him, he has a tendency kind of just try to flick the ball out there. And at times it looks great when you can get it to the running back, but there's a lot of people around the ball there that can pick that off. He threw into coverage a couple of times. So those are things he's going to have to work on. The more I watch him, I like him. I don't love him. I like him. I wouldn't mind if the Raiders took him. He has a chance to be somewhere between like Donovan McNabb at his best, or somewhere in the Russell Wilson world where like run the ball a little bit, and when you need him to, like he'll get out of the pocket, throw the ball down the field, and you get that big touchdown like Russell Wilson used to do with the Seahawks. I think he's somewhere in between those two guys. He's a gunslinger. He's not afraid. When his teams are down, he was down in the Virginia Tech and the Cal game. He had no problem bringing them back. Like this guy will get back there and he'll rip throws and he'll take chances and he'll bring a team back. Like if you're down 2 touchdowns and right now with Cam Ward, the game's not over. There's definitely value in that, but there are a lot of positives in him. There are some negatives that kind of need to be better to translate on Sundays. It's the footwork. It's reading the progressions in the pocket. It's when that back foot hits, does he rip the ball out? He doesn't do that consistently. If you just watch the throws in the pocket, he'll miss 4 or 5 and then he'll hit 1. And you're like, all right, that was a great throw. But he's got to hit most of those in the pocket. He can't just rely on when everything breaks down, getting out of the pocket. He's not going to run a 4.4, 4.5 at the combine. He's going to be probably a 4.65, 4.75 guy, somewhere in that range. So he's not going to be able to run away from a ton of defenders in the NFL like he can right now in college. But there's enough positive on tape to where if the Raiders took a chance on him in the top 10, okay, like the Raiders need to take a quarterback, I'd be okay with that. I still want to see I'm going to break down a little bit of Shedeur Sanders, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, and kind of work through some of the other quarterbacks. But right now, Cam Ward's probably has more upside than Sanders. Sanders is probably a better quarterback within the pocket. So that's going to be the interesting conversation. Like, do you want the guy who is going to be good in the pocket, that's going to get out a little bit, can make some plays, or do you want the guy when he gets out of the pocket, like, really good things can happen? But what happens when teams keep him in the pocket and they don't allow him to scramble on? They kind of build that fence around him. Like, can he beat teams consistently every Sunday doing that? I don't know if he can, but there's a lot of college season left. We'll see what the playoffs look like when he starts facing better defenses. I wouldn't say Virginia Tech, Cal, and Louisville are great defenses by any stretch of the imagination. So we'll see what happens when the competition gets a little bit better here as we move into the later part of the season and then into the playoffs. You're muted. I can't hear you.
We're week 8 and we're talking about quarterbacks. But hey, listen, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. Somebody gotta do it. All right.
It's better than watching the Raiders offense on all 22.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. All right, Red Nation. A little shorter show this week, but I gotta head out and grab somebody from the train station. Otherwise, they're gonna kill me. So I'll take you out. Take care. Go Raiders.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.